Hello and welcome to a Gaia update that's an overview of 2020 astrology. I'm Adrienne Elise. So we've been all talking about this 2020 astrology and what in the heck does it mean? The powerful energy of 2020 is the fact that Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter are all coming very close together in the sign of Capricorn. This is monumental and extremely rare for these planets to come together, and it's speaking to us in a very powerful way about what this time is about. So let's just talk through this. We've got Saturn at home in Capricorn. Saturn represents our manifested reality, which means the laws and rules of the physical world, meaning karma and obstruction, but also our true path underneath it all, our true kind of dharma path when we look at Saturn in our birth chart. Saturn at home in Capricorn wants to get stuff done. It wants to build. It wants to move. It wants to adjust this world, come home to this world. Very potent energy in 2019 leading up to 2020 we've got Neptune home in Pisces, we've had Sagittarius home in Jupiter home in Sagittarius, and we have Saturn home in Capricorn. And so Saturn is saying, hey, this is the deal with our reality. This is the reality check. And can we build something new? Because coming up with Pluto's the destroyer. Pluto wants to break down all patterns and structures that no longer serve, especially in Capricorn. As Capricorn represents the physical structures of our reality. It also represents our financial structures, our political structures, all power structures, all hierarchical power structures are up for review with these planets coming together. And it's an interesting next chapter to the last 10 or 12 years of astrology where we were feeling that Pluto-Uranus square. Now, Pluto and Uranus in square, Uranus is the revolutionary planet, Pluto is that destroyer planet, the breaking down, the transformative energy. And so it's talking about transforming our world into something more true to who we really are energetically. And this is the process that's been trying to happen ever since this whole story got started, when these planets, Pluto and Uranus, came together in a conjunction in the 60s. So now we are in the fallout of the Pluto-Uranus square that happened in the last 10 years. And we are kind of waiting for these changes, these manifested changes in our physical world to start representing the energetic changes, more true. There's a huge disconnect right now between our physical reality and the truth of who we are on an energetic level. And so these planets coming together is saying, hey, now it's also a changing of the guard around authority, because Capricorn represents our authoritarian structures. And so in our physical manifested world, the way it has been for a very long time, there is a disconnect between the rewards of this world and the punishments of this world. It feels like the good people get more and more bad karma, and the bad people get more and more money and benefits. This is trying to change on a massive level, a changing of the guard of who's in charge. And we have an opportunity for these bright and powerful, brilliant indigo souls, a totally different type of leader that's trying to come forward, a leader that is working for the best, for the whole, that's doing what's really right and good and true for everyone, and changing the guard, breaking down the power structures that have been in charge for a very long time on this planet. Going back all the way to ancient Atlantean time is when these patterns started, of energies in control of the structures of this world that do not have humanity's best interests in heart, and in fact have been working against the spiritual evolution evolution of humanity, so that we've been stuck in a wheel of karmic cycles, repeating the patterns again and again and again. And you can see this throughout history. And it's like, okay, have we done this enough already? And that's what 2020 is about. So we've got Saturn and Pluto adjusting, breaking down, trying to transform, but coming up against obstacles of the way things have been done for so long. But that is just trying to transform this world into a better representation of what's gone on in our energetic field. We have no validation besides individually what you might feel. Maybe you feel like you've been able to connect with other people that are going through what you've been going through. But for the most part, people feel completely invalidated, clueless, like maybe they're going crazy because of these energetic upgrades and downloads and the shifting, the incredible rapid shifting with technologies and the energetic frequencies of this world. And it can feel just like, oh my gosh, there's I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know if I'm being born or if I'm dying or if I'm transforming or if, I'm getting healthier, I'm getting sick, right? And so this is when we can't go any further. And a lot of the energy of the breakdown that needs to happen in this world has to do with truth. Because, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio sees through underneath the shadow and reveals the shadow. And until we see the shadow, like the general populace sees these control energies and what they've been doing to us for so long, we can't change it, right? We can't gloss over this one and put a Band-Aid on it. That's what Pluto and Saturn together are about. It's like, no, we can't just adjust this world to make it work. We have to just throw out all of these old structures and come up with something new and different that can better serve us. Of course, that brings up these feelings that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years in the astrology as we've been preparing for 2020. And these energies of the ego death, the false parts of ourselves. And that's kind of what's going on in the general populace and the collective consciousness. 2020, if you've been going through this for the last couple of years and you're kind of, okay, you get this, you're in good shape, because the general populace has to go through an ego death. They have to face where they've been lied to. They have to face the shadow and the secrets and the nastiness of this world that's been kind of glossed over. Right? And it's right there if you want to see it. And so those of us who have been facing the truth, we're going to be ready to celebrate a new world and a new paradigm. But a lot of the populace is going to be in that breakdown. I didn't realize, but just the information coming through around all these changes in the 2020 astrology, the spiritual awakening that we're going through has a lot to do with truth. And a lot of the messages coming through intuitively are like, we can't go anywhere. We cannot evolve beyond this point until we see a little bit more truth about who we are as a species, the true history of humanity in this earth evolution, and the truth of who we really are as conscious cosmic beings, right? And that's exciting. It's also scary. And that ego death process, I'm sure that you are familiar with it by now. If you've been called to listen to this work, it just isn't fun when everything you thought you knew is crumbling around you. And that's some of what is required for us to move forward. And that's what this 2020 astrology is about. So this is also our individual structures of authority. Like, where have we individually given our power away? Where are we complicit in this system? Where did we say yes, that there's energies outside of ourselves that are more powerful than who we are, that get to decide whether or not we get to spiritually evolve? Because, we're coming to the end of the road on this. And the cool thing about this is that in all of the charts, astrology charts I've worked with in this last couple of years, there's a real line in the sand in 2020, either in January or in the spring at some point. For almost every single chart I look at, it's like, okay, are you going to cross over this threshold? Right? This threshold has to do with that Chiron in Aries, being able to get over the wounds of who we are. Let those wounds, okay, so say we have been heavily persecuted in past lives and this life and targeted as souls that want to try to bring healing and fulfill the spiritual evolution. You know, that's why these souls are here. And yet the control energies where we've given our power away, they're doing everything they can to stop the spiritual evolution. But say you have been persecuted and then you've been beaten down. You don't even know who you are. You don't know what your purpose is. You don't know what your path is. You don't know what your gifts are, but you know there's a loss inside, right? And what if we could just let those wounds of persecution that we may have experienced, instead of playing out those stories again, being like, oh, that happened because I've got some badass stuff to bring to this world, right? Like, and it's time to get on with it. It's time to find our soul groups. It's time to build this new world, starting with that permission to be who we really are. So this 2020 can be an incredibly empowering time. It's like building your stage to step up on the platform of that bigger life that you've been hiding from, running from, right? Because Pluto represents power, and it represents spiritual power, emotional, psychic, spiritual power. And we've been programmed on a deep level to fear this power within us. We've been programmed to think that it's destructive. That goes all the way back to Atlantean time as well, too. And there's actually no negative to this power. But we've got to clear up all those stories before we can have that strength and that drive and that confidence to really step into this next chapter of who we really are. So there's different tiers of things happening for people. If you've been really going through it and getting your butt kicked, then it's time to step on that bigger stage. You've been prepared for that. Some are going through the ego death experience, facing where they blindly had faith in leaders and institutions of this world that were working in the evil energies directly against them. It's not pretty. And some people are just, beginning the process of awakening, but we're all taking it another step further, right? And for you who've been accelerated on this path and life has been falling apart, it's time for you to get that foundation under you in your new paradigm, your new world, so you can be a presence for the other tiers of soul groups that are going through it, so you can be like, hey, I know what's happening now. It's going to be okay. And have that confidence and strength to be the bigger you and be that chalice, that container for the true spiritual energies, so that you can be a living example to the people around you as they go through this collective, massive ego death. And I think that more than anything, this Saturn conjunct Pluto really has that energy to it, but also breakdown of all the structures of our lives that aren't based on egalitarian fairness, compassion, love. We support the individual when we are making our system work for everyone, right? And I know that sounds utopian and it sounds idealistic, but that's the energies we're working with as we move into the Aquarian age. The Aquarian age can either go towards turning us into all robots and automatons and sucking our soul and turning us into technological creatures, or we can move into this utopia, this golden age where we get to take back our planet and live in this world that's true, more true, to our spiritual truth, and get back into the technologies, the spiritual technologies that can make this world a better place for everyone. So that's what we're facing. All of this is about trying to move us into the Aquarian age, because at the end of 2020 in December, Saturn and Jupiter move together into the sign of Aquarius. So it's like that official starting. And then 2024, Pluto will finally be done. So really the 2020 astrology is the beginning of a 4-year cycle because when 2024, when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's like the 20 to 2024 astrology, right? It's like we can't just limit it to 1 year because it's quite a journey that we're on. But focusing on the 2020 astrology, it just starts off with a bang in December of 2019. And so what happens in December on the Christmas night, December 26th, at midnight on the East Coast, we have a new moon, total solar eclipse. I mean, there are so many messages here because this total solar eclipse happens that means the sun and the moon are together. They're in Capricorn, and Jupiter will have just passed into Capricorn. So this total solar eclipse is conjunct Jupiter, kind of like, okay, welcome to the party, Jupiter, right? Here we go. Because Jupiter brings amplification. It's like a crystal. It's just got this big energy of expansion and making more. So when Jupiter comes into play with Saturn and Pluto, it's amplifying that energy of breaking down. It also brings hope and energies towards figuring out a way, solutions, moving us into that bigger picture. Sagittarius wants to see the bigger picture, wants to see, like, push the veil, the horizon, and push the boundaries, right? So Jupiter kind of is putting a motor on this whole thing. And it's powerful because it's just coming out of this year-long sojourn at its home sign of Sagittarius. So 2019 was a lot about, like, deep inner feelings of being, not being able to be on your path and live your truth and have a life of meaning and purpose. Sagittarius wants to learn and to grow and expand. And with these control energies working so tightly against our evolution, especially the front runner souls, these indigo light worker souls, crystal seeds that are here to forge the way into the future, they've been really targeted and lost. They know inside something's missing, but it's like, I know I have this bigger path, this purpose, and then the people around you are being like, oh, that's not important. You're just being silly. Or maybe they're saying, oh, that's egotistical. You think you're better than everybody else, right? But it's not. It's like the true path of these souls is this bigger spiritual purpose. I mean, there's like thousands of lifetimes and evolutions and experiences that have led up to this point. These souls are here going through everything they've gone through to be a part of this transition. And it's all hands on deck right now. Saturn at home in Capricorn coming up with Pluto. It's like, yeah, now we get to work. Now we make it happen. Enough of this rearranging and waiting and trying to figure it out and clearing the shadow and la 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 la, right? It's like, now it's time to get to work, because Saturn is an action planet and it wants to build. And Pluto says, yeah, it's got to be a structure that's, more true. Get the lies out of here. Break it down. Destroy all of that so that we can just clear out the rubble and start to build something else. So this total solar eclipse that's happening on Christmas night will be conjunct Jupiter and the North Node. Opposite the North Node. So conjunct the South Node. And so Jupiter's like in the game, playing with the nodes and playing with all these themes we've been working on and bringing that very powerful passing over the galactic center that happens in November of 2019. Jupiter will cross over 27 degrees. Sagittarius is the galactic center, and it's a destiny calling, right? So we've had this whole year of Jupiter in Sagittarius preparing us for, actually showing us validating that we do have a greater destiny, and kind of clearing out all of what's in the way of us stepping on to that path and that purpose. And then, bam, this massive activation of our collective destiny and individual destinies. And then Jupiter just, boom, moves into Capricorn, starting the whole journey of the 2020. So that total solar eclipse, Christmas night, conjunct Jupiter and the South Node, it's saying game on. And it's like a very powerful start to this whole journey. Now, on the 29th of December, Saturn and Pluto come 1 degree apart. So that's like we're really moving into the energy, and it's very interesting. It's like, okay, getting into the end of the year here, and 2020 is happening in a few days, and are you ready? So these next few months of 2019, it's really important to do what you can do to be grounded and present for this epic, historical, crazy experience we're all going through together. Now, January is really, even though 2020 astrology is going to linger through the whole year and through 2024, the big energy is in January, because in January, Saturn and Pluto are exact. And that's the only time, because Saturn will move into, in March, it will move into Aquarius. On the equinox. Saturn moves into Aquarius, but then it'll retrograde back into Capricorn, but not back to Pluto. So Pluto and Saturn are not going to have 3 crosses and all this stuff. They came close together in May of 2019, and now they're going to have one big bang. And that big bang is exact between January 16th and 14th. So that second week of January, that's where we're crossing over the threshold into this energy. And that is interesting because those planets come together at 22 degrees. And you've probably heard me talk about 22 as a master builder number. And what an incredibly intense message for us. 22 degrees is a master builder number. It's maybe like we're waking up to that master builder within us, waking up to our access to higher technology that we've been suppressed and hidden and disempowered and persecuted and just held down through all these thousands of years. And now it's like, okay, we got to build something new. Where's the master builders? And that is a powerful energy for Saturn and Pluto together at 22 degrees Capricorn. Capricorn being an earth sign of structures. And it's like, okay, we got to build a new world. And we're kind of building it from scratch because Pluto says break it all down. Saturn is wants to build and move. It is an action planet, but it wants to do it in a very methodical way with a strong foundation. It's that mountain goat, one step after the other. And that's a really good analogy because the astrology is not going to get less intense. From now on out to the end of 2020, we are pretty much in it to win it. Hopefully, right? Win back our power, win back our autonomy, and begin building. So maybe we're being shown in 2020 what needs to be broken down in order to build that new world. But 22 degrees, this exact conjunction of Saturn and Pluto at 22 degrees Capricorn is saying, yeah, it's time. It's time to get to work. Now, then the other thing that's happening in January is that Jupiter stays close to the South Node. And there's also a partial lunar eclipse on January 10th. And so the partial lunar eclipse happens at 20 degrees Cancer, meaning that that's right across from Saturn and Pluto, right? And not only that, but Mercury and the Sun will join them. So there's a stellium of planets together for this partial lunar eclipse, and that's going to be the Sun and Mercury and Saturn and Pluto. All together. Jupiter's in Capricorn, but not close yet, but still holding that Capricorn energy conjunct the South Node. Wow, so massive Capricorn activation, and maybe that's really the time in January that you're going to get your marching orders and kind of understand what this threshold is, crossing over this threshold. It's kind of like the unknown. It's like turning that corner into this new world, and we're supposed to build it, but we don't really know what's going on. So maybe there'll be some clarity as this process unfolds, but January is just like, whoa, sit tight and be present for it, because it's epic and amazing and intense all at the same time. Because Jupiter conjunct the South Node it brings that expansive energy, and it's expanding our karmic bloom, right? The stuff from the past. Jupiter's bringing a big spotlight on that, with the South Node. It's like, what's holding us back? What is holding us back? So we're going to be having a massive karmic bloom, but also maybe clarity and impulse and feelings like it's time to move forward. Not like last year where it's like just wallowing in the karmic bloom. In the 2019 energy of Saturn conjunct the South Node, this is a little different because Jupiter says, hey, let's grow, let's expand, let's get out of this ill-fitting suit that is our world, that hasn't been able to adjust to our spiritual energetic changes that have been happening. And so that is this dance we're in. So on January 10th, this is when we're going to be feeling that Jupiter exact with the South Node, and Saturn and Pluto exact, conjunct, and then right across the way, a full moon in Cancer, partial lunar eclipse, across from the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto. So that's going to be massive, massive, massive. It's like, okay, coming into 2020, and then it just starts off with a massive bang. Now, when we get to March 9th through April 5th, so a full month almost, that's when we're going to be feeling Jupiter and Pluto come together. Because Saturn's kind of moved on. It's going, it's moved in on the equinox, spring equinox, March 21st, moves into Aquarius, and then it'll take a retrograde and it'll come back into Capricorn. But that's when we're going to feel Jupiter and Pluto. Now, Jupiter and Pluto together, wow, it could go any which way, because Jupiter can bring luck, money, that expansion, but Pluto's the breakdown, so it's amplifying the breakdown, but also maybe the breakthrough. Okay, now because of Jupiter's retrograde, we're going to feel this 3 times, and it's like flavoring all of 2020. So that's going to start in March, and then we'll feel that through the whole month into April. Probably we'll feel it through April too, and then it's going to come back in the end of June for the second time, and the third pass will be in November. So the whole year is about this expanding, the transformation, the breakdown of this world, and breakthrough, trying to get us to that breakthrough. So November could be really powerful as far as November 2020. It's like you get your marching orders in December, January, and then we're like in the dance of it, and then November, it makes more sense what we're really trying to do here, because that's the third pass of these transits, is when you get the gift of it. And now what's really going to intensify all of this stuff is that Mars is taking a retrograde this summer, late summer, in 2020. August through October, we're going to be feeling it. And so Mars in its home sign of Aries, so it's going to be interacting with Chiron, activating that Chiron in Aries. And then it's going to have this a retrograde in its home sign of Aries. So Mars has been getting an upgrade. Last year in 2018, it had a retrograde in Aquarius, kind of being like, it was like a total overhaul of our male energy. Like, okay, well, how do we fight and be a warrior in the Aquarian age? And Mars has kind of been like, oh, it's like Mars with Chiron and Aries. Mars doesn't know who he is. The divine masculine's trying to land, and the old masculine archetypes are like, they don't feel quite right, So now Mars in its home sign of Aries, of like the self, who am I, and permission to be who I really am, and act out of my truth, and stand up for my rights to be who I really am and exist, and be a full-blown member of this society, even as a brilliant and rather troubled indigo soul, and so Mars retrograde in Aries, man, it's going to be squaring up with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto 3 times, 3 planets, and that's going to happen the first time in mid-August. That's when it's going to heat up again. We're also going to have eclipses around then, or maybe, I think, they're in July this year, or maybe, I'm not sure, but there's eclipses in June and July, I believe, and that's going to kind of heat us up into this Mars retrograde, and Mars will square Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, or actually it's Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn in the line. It will square those planets in mid-August, and then again in early October, and then the third time, December 2020. So December 2020 is when we finally resolve from this Mars retrograde in Aries. It's a complete overhaul of the identity of the masculine, inviting in the divine masculine, inviting in that healed and beautiful, powerful goddess feminine, so that sacred marriage within can happen, and we can move into this new age. Just after that third pass of, Mars will the third square with Jupiter and Saturn will happen as these planets move into Aquarius in 2021, excuse me. So I think it's actually the solstice of 2021. Yeah, winter solstice of 2020 actually is when on the 20th, December 20th, 2020, right before the solstice, Saturn moves into Aquarius. Jupiter will move into Aquarius and Mars moves into Aquarius. So Mars squares those planets, all of them at the end of December, and Saturn and Jupiter move into Aquarius. So Saturn will have already had a retrograde back into Capricorn, and then it will be in Aquarius for good, and Jupiter won't retrograde back into Capricorn. So that will be a massive completion, but also no, we have the window open as long as Pluto's in Capricorn. But the 2020 astrology is over on that winter solstice. All kind of starts this winter solstice in 2019 when Saturn and Pluto come so close together, and we have that crazy total solar eclipse. So it's a journey and we're on it together. I just wanted to, I've been talking so much about the 2020 astrology and now give you a little bit of a clue of what's happening, and I have some more in-depth insights that I will share as we move through this, and so we can really be prepared to be in this over the threshold together, move over the threshold together as we come to the end of an intense year in its own right, 2019, but even more intense year ahead. So, but we're together in it, and I look forward to seeing you on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.